Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, my fellow participants, and our esteemed faculty, Mr. Shailesh Gupta. Welcome to our presentation this morning. Today we'll be presenting on a world-renowned business leader, Mr. Olasunkomi Opeifa from Nigeria, Mr. Gavan Ranger from Jamaica, Ms. Chanel Richards from Jamaica, and myself, Ms. Tabani Masuzu from the Kingdom of Eswatini. The scope of our presentation this morning will look at Mr. Tata's biography.
Gavan, move away.
His leadership style, the industry profile of the Tata Group, its contribution to India, its corporate social responsibilities, the challenges they faced, and how we can learn from those challenges, and then we'll take questions. I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Mr. Gavan. On his biography, Mr. Jamshedi Tata was a pioneering industrialist and the founder who laid the foundations for one of the biggest companies in the world today, the Tata Group. He was born in 1839 in Gujarat, India, and he started his career as a trader before he started the Tata Group at the age of 29. Mr. Tata was a visionary who saw the potential for industrialization in India, and he worked hard to establish not just Tata, but India as a whole as a major player in the global economy. Mr. Jamshedi Tata passed away in 1904, but his legacy lives on through the Tata Group, which continues to be a major player not just in the Indian economy, but the global economy today. Now, just exactly how did he lead? I'll hand over to Mr. Gavan Ranger to take us through.
Thank you. So who was Tata? Tata was an uncommon man. It was his right to be uncommon if he can. He sought opportunities and not securities. He was humble but dull by having the state look after him. He took the calculated risk. He built and he achieved. He failed but he succeeded. He didn't bend to any master nor cower to any threat. It was his heritage to stand direct, proudly and boldly to say, this he has built. His leadership style, we examine it and we realize that he had a mix of transactional and transformational leadership. This is so because he was a visionary and a leader, but his philosophy was based on educating and empowering his employees. Qualities of Tata are: he was a visionary, innovative leader, forward thinker. He sought improvement always. He was a business developer. He was persistent, strong-willed, socially responsible, and he always empowered people. In all, his style was a dynamic and a forward-thinking style. The Tata Group's profile: Tata is comprised of 114 companies operating in 7 business sectors. Tata operates in 54 countries, providing products and services to 120 nations across 6 continents. Tata's total employee strength is 2.5 million people. I will now hand over to Chanel, who will speak on his contribution to India.
No, thank you. Oftentimes, when we hear about contribution, we think about employment or the financial part of things. But I put it to you that the Tata Group was so much more than that. They recognize that there is significant importance to research, science, and technology. And because of that, the Tata Group set up the Indian Institute of Science, which happens to be one of the premier research institutes in India. Very commendable, I would say. As well as the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. Thirdly, they implemented or introduced the Tata Consultancy Services, which is the IT company responsible for the software used in BSE and NSE, which is the Bombay Stock Exchange, and the National Stock Exchange, which facilitated huge transactions on both platforms. And lastly, Tata Trust, which is this philanthropic venture which goes out to support millions of people across the country and provide support to many startups and social ventures. Of course, what can we say without introducing corporate social responsibilities? Now, Tata's belief is that business is sustainable only when it serves a larger purpose in society. In his own words, in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder to business, but it is in fact the very purpose of its existence. And because of that, the Tata Group looked at health, education, employability, and environment. Now, under health, the institution of village health workers was established. Community members identified and trained for providing basic health care to village communities. Under education, contribution of Tata Motors improved education through infrastructural development and for promoting schooling among the villages and through upgrading of educational facilities. Environment. Tata Motors work on projects that include reducing influence on emissions, maintaining local ecologies, repairing green cover, and improving long-term corporate sustainability, and lastly, employability. Technical and vocational programs are run for rural youths in areas such as electrical and welding, of course, improving on their employability prospects in the future. And of course, there's nothing without challenges.
Sure. They say the secret of a man is in his story. The story of Tata cannot be complete without looking at some challenges he faced and how he overcame them. We are looking at the challenge of capital, lack of capital, infrastructure, lack of skilled labor, bureaucratic obstacles, and competition from established firms. When he started as a merchant, just a businessman. He had just little to do his business. Yet he was able to put one stone upon another, and it became a global testimony today. Many years ago, at that time, India was not well established in terms of infrastructural facility. Yet, Tata stood out. He thought outside the box and was able to establish himself as a global player. He had semi-skilled labor or no skill at all. However, he was able to educate them, and today now, many of them also became capital of industries. Bureaucratic obstacles. As at that time, there were policies against establishing businesses, of course, just like the way we have it now, just regulating them. But Tata became a good player with the government. Even one of the rulers at that time referred to him as one-man commission because of the relationship with them. In 1904, around that 19th century, however, the British had already established their own firm everywhere. Now, here is a man from a developing country, probably even not developed as such then, competing with a well-established British firms, and still he was able to compete with them, and he established himself very well. So what have we learned from him, and what are the lessons you are supposed to also learn? 2, 1, he has a vision. Show me a man that has vision, then you should see a great man. He was very creative. He thought outside the box, and today now, we are learning from him as our innovative leader. He moved away from his comfort zone. Of course, a son of a poor man who could only rely on his breakfast, dinner, and lunch, yet he was still able to manage himself, remove himself from the comfort zone, and then move on greatly. Then he was a well-calculated risk taker. Of course, you can see from all these examples that yes, he calculated very well, related well with the Japanese, and he was able to compete effectively with British organizations. We move on with this now to questions, in case you have any.